Hello everyone, it's Doug Diamond here. Hope you guys are well. 10:05 p.m. on Sunday night, August 18th, 2024. And hope you guys have had a good week so far. It's been a week since we've been together. However, I did an earlier broadcast just a couple nights ago. So this is actually part 2 of the Friday broadcast that I also recorded and uploaded. So if you missed that, I did all the really good reporting and really good stories and news and stuff on Friday. So, gee, I'm sorry. Tough luck. So we're going to just shut it down for the night. No, I'm just joking. I've got a whole bunch of new stuff to look at. But I did do a show on Friday night. I had to do a fill-in for my buddy Bart Sabrell, who was not feeling well, I guess. And I filled in for him for some of his subscribers. And it was just a pre-record and an upload sort of situation. So this is part 2 of what I recorded on Friday night. The Friday night show is available on my alternative platforms. It is not on YouTube because it's far too dangerous. So don't look for it on YouTube. But yeah, it's on there, and I'll show you that in just a second. But I have a couple of funny things we wanted to look at first. So it's Doug Diamond here. You've reached the Diamond Report Live. Glad you guys are here. And yeah, I got some interesting comments here. It was a great show, Doug. Awesome surprises. Thank you, Miss Emily. I appreciate that very much. And the video we were just watching, the Greg Reese report with Schmidt, the former guy from Amazon, just reminded me that the old famous quote from Gerald Celente, who's one of my favorites to listen to: bullets, bombs, and banks. That's what it's all about, it seems like. Bullets, bombs, and banks. So I put that in the chat as we were going live here tonight. So yeah, you can see on the screen there our rules for the government, which is really just one sheet of paper if you think about it, and the government's rules for us. So that says a lot. It does, for sure. And let's see, a couple other memes that I found that I wanted to share with you guys. We've got some good ones here. Wondering how we got to the point where people who lie are not punished, but people who tell the truth are. That is where we are. And we've heard about this in Scripture, right? Calling good evil and calling evil good. We are definitely in that period of time that was warned about in the Bible. So yeah. And then this one, this is not actually a meme, but it might as well be, because it's so stupid. It's so ridiculous. But you can go there, and if I think about it, I'll try and put the link in chat. But you can go there. It's actually a Harris for President jobs application form. I kid you not. And it says Battleground Political Associate. Apparently that's the job title, the position. Wilmington, Delaware. Submit your application. Well, they do want the person's name and resume, surprisingly. I don't know why, but yeah, look at the pronouns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then plus use name only or custom. So really 11. Let the employer know what pronouns you use so they can address you correctly. And then email, phone, current location, and so forth. I just thought that was funny. It's kind of a meme, but it's also so sad that it's it's certainly worth making fun of. So it's a living meme, I guess. A form on the Harris for President site. Thought that was funny. And speaking of which, I found this one too. And you know what rhymes with which? Yeah, I think you misspelled Kamala. And this is from the former Harris staffers coming toward this lady wearing the Karma is a B-I-H shirt. She says, I think you misspelled Kamala. Thought that was pretty funny. Yeah, anyways. All right, well, let's move onward here. I wanted to show you guys this real quick before we get into the news. This is the show that I did on Friday night. It is freely available. It's on my alternative platforms, which would be Rumble and BitChute and Brighteon. It's not on Facebook. It's not on YouTube, and probably won't be. Not much point in it. I did a lot of mentioning of various and sundry things like medical misinformation. And I'm only mentioning medical misinformation at the moment because I can get away with it while we're live on YouTube, but the moment we're done being live, I have to delete this video. So if you are a person that tunes into this show live and wonders where the show disappears to the moment that I hit the off button, well, I have to delete it. I'm sorry. But I do go back and do some editing and some creative editing sometimes where I have to go and reverse certain words if it's a story that I want to leave in the video, and then re-upload to YouTube and it plays on Tuesday. So this show will be available on Tuesday. However, the show that I did the other night will not be. It will only be on my BitChute and my Rumble channel and my Brighteon channel. That's where it's going to stay. So anyway, there it is. Biohybrid Magnetic Robots. So that was the name of the show. And the name kind of says it all. And you know where that technology came from, right? Yeah. Anyways, so have a look at that show if you want. It's a little bit shorter than the normal Sunday night shows are. This one was an hour and some change. I don't know, an hour and 20 minutes or so. But I did cover a lot of really good and really important details, different articles, and things like that. So anyway, have a look at that if you guys have time. All right, HalTurnerRadioshow.com. This is the first story I have pulled up tonight. Nearly 1/3 of the entire U.S. Navy is deployed to the Middle East. And Israel-Iran fight coming. The Israel/Iran fight is coming. That's what we've all been saying. And it really dawned on me today that this is the very definition of the rumors of war. The rumors of war. Because we keep thinking it's going to hit, and then nothing happens. It sort of makes me wonder if the Iranians are trying to fake out the Israeli leadership by sending them to their bunkers over and over again, and then at some point they're just going to get tired of it and say, well, we're just going to stay outside of the bunkers because Iran's not going to do anything, and then wham. That's what I'm thinking anyway. So we will see. I mean, I don't want that to happen. I'm just guessing that's probably what will happen eventually. It says, while they are keeping Iran engaged in negotiations, the United States force projection to support Israel is being amassed in the Persian Gulf and the Levant. Nearly 1/3 of the entire U.S. naval fleet is being positioned there. 1/3. So that is a lot of men and equipment. It says USS Lincoln passed through the Straits of Malacca 3 days ago. Here's the current inventory of U.S. naval deployments in the region. So he's got tracking U.S. Navy ships in the Mediterranean, in the Middle East. So it's showing all the various ships here. Over here is primarily what we're talking about. So all these different ships here. So yeah, pretty much all of the Navy is over in the Middle East now. It says below, just a few days ago, the USS Abraham Lincoln in the South China Sea for the Middle East. That's where it was headed. Longer Iran takes to retaliate against Israel for the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran a few weeks ago, the more force the U.S. moves into position to defend, quote-unquote, Israel. Why the U.S. feels the need to defend Israel for murdering a man in cold blood in Iran's capital city is anyone's guess. Well, we've got a lot of money invested, unfortunately. Yet, for some reason, the U.S. is doing exactly that. Apparently, the Sissy Mary girly men officers in the Pentagon, this is Hal talking, the White House and the Congress never learned the concept when someone hits you, you hit them back. Israel hit Iran. Israel murdered a man in a building just 750 meters from Iran's presidential palace. It was cold-blooded, premeditated murder. Under the United Nations Charter, Article 51, Iran has the absolute right to hit Israel back. So why is the U.S. involving itself? Well, it's simple. Campaign contributions. The dual citizens, Israeli Americans, pay big money to U.S. political campaigns, and those campaigns need that money to stay in power, so the U.S. is willing to provide military power to defend Israel because the politicians in the U.S. are willing to be bought, even to the degree that they will defend cold-blooded murder. That is what infests the corridors of power in the United States. Mental weakling men who are so craven for power, they are willing to be bought off to cover up murder. That is what the United States federal government consists of. That is what Americans elected to represent them. I would say in some cases, but obviously we know how rigged the elections are as well. So anyway, there's a little bit more here. This is Hal's op-ed piece, but interesting that so much of the U.S. Navy is deployed over in the Middle East. So I didn't know if you guys knew it was that much. But anyway, let's keep moving here. We've got just a few articles on needtoknow.news, but different ones than the other night that I reported on. Pushback against debanking due to discrimination by banks of certain viewpoints. And speaking of debanking, if you didn't see the video clip that I played in the show from the other night, the Friday night show, the Beast banking system, ATM, directly from China, you got to see it. This article just reminded me of that. I won't bother playing it again tonight because many of you guys probably already saw it, but man, scary stuff. All right, so this article says large national banks lead a trend of debanking business and individual accounts due to discrimination against certain viewpoints with little warning and virtually no explanation. In response, Florida and Tennessee enacted consumer protection laws that prohibit big banks from canceling customer accounts based on their constitutionally protected speech and religious exercise. The Tennessee law applies to banks with at least $100 billion in assets, which includes both Regions and Bank of America. Bank of America was exposed for working with the U.S. Department of Treasury to profile people and label them domestic terrorists when they made purchases from Bass Pro Shops or buying, quote, religious texts, i.e. Bibles, I guess. It says the U.S. Treasury has now spoken out in opposition to these state-level attempts to protect the God-given freedoms guaranteed by the First Amendment. The Treasury cannot profile half of America as domestic terrorists, institute Orwellian financial surveillance, and then hide behind the fig leaf of national security when the states push back. So it all comes back down to local, in a sense, right? So interesting that looks like Tennessee and Florida are trying to do something about this. But yeah, I've heard of lots of stuff with debanking lately, especially for podcasters and truth tellers. Just all of a sudden, the bank just decides one day, hey, we don't want your business, take it elsewhere. And by the way, we're going to hold on to your money until we say you can have it back. That happens a lot too. And sometimes it's weeks, sometimes it's months. But yeah. So this article goes on and it talks about some things happening in Nashville, which is where I am. So kind of interesting. If you're a Tennessean, you might want to have a look at this. I will probably myself as well look at it a little further. All right, so let's see. The next article here is 78% of Americans cannot afford fast food. Companies set to cut prices and decrease food quality. So they're about ready to make you eat the bugs, I guess. So they've got a picture of what appears to be some sort of bugs here. 78% of Americans cannot afford fast food. Yeah, it is very expensive. I've noticed that. But on the other hand, if you can't afford it, maybe you shouldn't eat it anyway, huh? So companies are decreasing the quality of the food in order to lower their prices. Many of America's biggest fast food restaurants use meat products from Tyson Foods. The meat supplier is partnering with Protix. We've talked about them before on this show. A sustainable food system, quote unquote, developed from insects. The company will add fillers and may use insect ingredients. They may use insect ingredients. I would say they most definitely do. That's the whole purpose of them being in business, sounds like. Fast food companies are also moving toward automation. Tyson is hiring migrants and will get a tax credit enabling employees to receive health care for $10 per month. The health and wellness market is expected to grow from $1.8 trillion to $6.75 trillion by 2030. So, wow. Sick America is the video embedded here, and not sure if it goes into the bug fillers being used in food, but either that or about to be used in food. I'm not sure which. But have a look at this if you want. It's on needtoknow.news. And next article I pulled up is technocracy.news. I've got 2 articles from here. I did the 3 main ones the other night, so I figured I'd find a couple other ones. Ray Kurzweil, the transhuman. I'm sure you guys know who he is. When humans merge with science fiction. I happen to be, you guys remember the 80s comedian Stephen Wright? You remember him? I always liked him. I was watching him earlier today, and he did a funny joke that said, he's like, he talks in this real monotone, deadpan sort of voice, and he said that he's going to donate his body to science fiction when he dies. I thought that was funny. Donate his body to science fiction. Says, lest you forget, Ray Kurzweil is the consummate transhuman and technocrat rolled into one. He is also chief scientist at Google and hopes for his head to be frozen by Alcor Life Extension in Scottsdale, Arizona after he dies. They're just going to freeze his head. That's all he needs. Oh, brother. Anyway, in 2017, he doubled down on his prediction of reaching the singularity by 2029, advancing his original timeline from 2045. The problem? Blending science fiction with reality always yields science fiction. And to bet your future on it will not end well. Yeah, but he's going to live his whole life just in his head, like he always does. I don't know how that's really any different than now. But anyway, he's preparing to have his head removed and frozen solid, and then he'll wake up, I guess, in the future. Now, I think he's one of these people that believes that your consciousness can be, downloaded to a computer system, and you can live your life virtually somehow after you die, which is unbelievably ridiculous and very silly, but he thinks it's possible. He also says, I've heard him do interviews before that he says that he doesn't believe in God, but I think he believes that he will be God when he achieves this, supposedly. So, anyway, clearly he is deranged, and clearly he is wrong. So, but I guess he'll find out at some point when he's face to face with his creator, won't he? What is AI really? Digital illusions, false promises, and mass re-education. AI is about to pop its own personal .com bubble, bankruptcies, unmet expectations, and public repudiation. And I would note too that Trump is really out there lately promoting how great AI is. So just keep an eye on that. I'll keep reading here. It has not provided any tangible or constructive social benefits to humankind, but rather only promises harm instead, like throwing millions of people out of work. AI is an oxymoron that will never be human because it never will possess a soul or spirit. In the meantime, it's the slickest display of snake oil in modernity. I thought that was pretty good. That's very true and very concise. It does seem to be exactly what it is. So, but yeah, Trump's out there promoting AI all of a sudden, so definitely keep a sharp eye on that. Speaking of which, Trump in Pennsylvania floors Comrade Kamala, and he brought along a Venezuelan friend. Trump held a rally in Wilkes Barre. So I guess I've heard that he's going to go back to, what was it, Butler, where he was nearly taken out. So I don't know what the deal is. But I guess that maybe on tap soon. So anyway, there's all these different video clips here. Trump's now calling her Comrade Kamala. It says this woman is nuts. Have you heard her laugh? That's the laugh of a crazy person. It's the laugh of a lunatic. We all know this. So some various other clips. Comrade Kamala's latest laugh line, she's going to fix the economy on day one, quote unquote. Well, day one was 3.5 years ago. This is day 1,305. That was awesome. That was good. Let's see. Max capacity at the Trump rally. A little bit more than what old Comrade Kamala is getting. And then there's some other clips here embedded too. It's on revolver.news. And then the headlines on reclaimthenet.org. There's not too many new ones since the show the other night, but I'll read these 3 new ones here. House committee slams EU for X censorship threats. So we'll see where that goes, if anywhere. House Judiciary Committee escalates a transatlantic free speech battle, accusing the EU of wielding regulations as political weapons. Well, that's exactly what they're doing. And as I said the other night, there is one person over there in the UK who's above all of it. And I'm going to keep driving that point home because I think we're going to be hearing more and more about all the stuff that's unfolding in the UK in particular. Yes, they're ahead of us as far as what the globalists and the cabal at the top are trying to do. They're ahead of us in time, so what happens there is what they want to bring here, clearly. And I would just note that the person in charge over there, it's an individual, and I think you know who I'm talking about, is a very important one to keep an eye on, especially in the near future. X draws the line in Brazil, shuts down local operations amid censorship clash. Tense standoff between tech and government, between X and the country of Brazil. So that's pretty wild. And then Eric Schmidt again. AI think tank urges NATO to monitor, quote, disinformation in real time and coordinate responses. So I don't know if that means coordinate responses in real time or not, but it might very well. Eric Schmidt's think tank pushes for NATO-led real-time disinformation surveillance. I think he's talking about all of us, not NATO like in Russia and Ukraine and all that stuff. I think they're talking about censorship on social media is what it sounds like. Edging toward the controversial realm of pre-bunking as a new strategy in information warfare. So this guy is a living, breathing, mad tyrant, for sure. So just keep an eye out on what Eric Schmidt and his people are doing, because it is not good, not good. And the Greg Reese report, the video at the front of this show tonight, I thought did a good job of explaining exactly what was going on, what he was trying to do. Anyway, Oversight Committee launching investigation into walls over China and China connections. Interesting that what is it that China is known for? What's the most famous place you can go visit in China? The Great Wall, right? Well, this is a guy with the last name Walls. Is that ironic or what? Tim Walz and his China connections are cause for House investigation, says Chairman James Comer, Oversight Committee. It says the investigation is following reports detailing the governor's longstanding connections to Chinese Communist Party entities and officials, according to James Comer. Well, why didn't you investigate Biden and his entire family? I mean, that has already existed for many years, those connections, I mean. Anyway, they're trying to do something, it sounds like, although I'm not sure I buy this. Says the House Oversight Committee is launching an investigation into Minnesota Gov. Tim Walz over his numerous connections to China, which include a student exchange program funded by the Chinese Communist Party, the Chinese secret police station operating in the Twin Cities, and much more. Chairman James Comer, Republican from Kentucky, launched the investigation following reports detailing the governor's longstanding connections to the Chinese Communist Party entities and officials, according to the House Oversight Committee. I'm sure they will have oversight and look right past it, is my guess. Yeah, Verba Homefront says, emergency. You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means. I know. One of my favorite movies. I'm glad you quoted that. Princess Bride. That was Inigo Montoya. Yeah, emergency, exactly. I mean, we are all fed up, sick and tired of the emergencies that don't exist. I mean, the real emergency in my book is watching for World War III to kick off. I mean, that's clearly something that they're wanting to happen. I think that's very probable and very real. Again, back to the rumors of war. But I think those rumors may very well turn out to be the real thing. Monkeypox, ain't too afraid of that one. Got to be honest. All right. So back to Russia and Ukraine for a second. Apparently, Ukrainian troops are now kidnapping Russian civilians. A video showing Kiev's forces snatching people was discovered on a POW's action camera, several Ukrainian fighters who participated in the Kiev's cross-border attack, I mentioned this the other night, on Kursk, have admitted to, quote, helping transport, unquote, Russian civilians to an unknown location. In other words, hostages is what they're saying. Man, the revelations came when the troops who either surrendered or were captured during the incursion were presented with video evidence from their own body cameras. The footage shows armed Ukrainian militants escorting Russian men, some of them beaten, blindfolded, with their hands tied, from private houses and forcefully shoving them into a truck. They are believed to be civilians, snatched in the village of Goncharakova, around 8 kilometers from the Russian-Ukrainian border. During questioning, the Ukrainian captives were asked to elaborate on the footage and explain who they were loading onto the vehicle and why. One of the POWs claimed that the men were Russian conscripts captured by the Ukrainians, but admitted that at least 3 of them were actually civilians who were there visiting someone. So that's the next thing. I'm wondering if they're going to take them back to Ukraine and force them to fight for Ukraine. They need all the help they can get at this point. Yeah, so that is not good. I didn't know if you guys knew about this. This first I've seen of it was Ukraine has stooped to apparently taking hostages at this point, actual Russian civilians. So something to watch out for. Ukraine pushing Russia to use nuclear weapons, according to the leader of Belarus, Lukashenko. Kiev may have launched its Kursk incursion to provoke a drastic response by Moscow. President Lukashenko believes Ukraine's incursion into internationally recognized Russian territory looks like an attempt to compel Moscow to use nuclear weapons, which would irrevocably damage its image globally. The danger is that this kind of escalation on the part of Ukraine is an attempt to push Russia into asymmetric actions, for example, the use of nuclear weapons, the Belarusian leader said. Yep, they are doing the tiptoe towards some sort of nuclear event, it looks like. U.S. moving towards total censorship, according to Moscow. Now, there's a headline I can honestly say I never thought I would, never even contemplated. You know, growing up, kid in the 80s, Soviet Union, big bad meanies over there. And 2024, we're seeing the opposite. It's our country that's the big bad meanies. U.S. moving towards total censorship. A witch hunt is underway in America ahead of the presidential election, Russia's ambassador to Washington said. Now, I do disagree with something here, so let me get to that. It says freedom of speech in the U.S. is only permitted for those who express pro-American views, while dissenters are subject to a political inquisition, Russia's ambassador said. No, pro-American views, well, at least in my opinion, sounds like pro-American views would be MAGA people, right? Or people who want to keep America great, as it once was, at least. I think he misspoke. I think he means to say freedom of speech in the U.S. is only permitted for those who express pro-Israel views. That's what he meant. So I'll just fix that for him there. But yeah, I mean, obviously, he must not be paying attention, because if you have pro-American views, that is not exactly pro-communist views. So the communists that run everything in this country literally don't want that. Hence their whole reason for trying to jail Trump and kill Trump and everything else, and all of the people that follow him and everyone that's basically anywhere from about center to anywhere on the right. That's why they're trying to silence everyone at this point. So yeah, freedom of speech in the U.S. is only permitted for those who express pro-Israeli values. Pro-Israel. That's it. Not pro-American. So anyway, that's on RT. And one more. Poland allows border guards to shoot at migrants. Seems like that would probably stop them from running across the border pretty fast. The new law exempts servicemen from criminal liability for employing live fire. Polish president has signed legislation that expands the use of weapons by the military, police, and border guards and exempts them from criminal liability for employing live fire. Duda, who's the president, approved the act on support for the activities of soldiers and officers on Wednesday as Poland celebrated Armed Forces Day, and the head of presidential office announced. The new law allows the military to take part in operations within the country in peacetime and sets out the rules for the use of firearms in these situations by troops. Does it sound like they really want their migrants running in across the border, huh? So they're going to start shooting people? That's what it sounds like. So yeah, the Polish the people in charge in Poland are not putting up with it, what the globalists want. And I think it's interesting that that's how they're going to, at least according to this article, that's how they're going to deal with it. When on the other hand, you've got Poland, who is, rah cheering on the Ukrainian army and ready to go full steam into Russia. So, I mean, while Poland might be doing some good things on one hand, they are also, there's a really good probability, I would think, that Poland's going to be leading us straight into World War III. So I don't think I necessarily agree with everything they're doing over there, although this border thing's kind of interesting for sure. And I guess that probably would curb some of the, migrant invasion, which brings me to this. I found this pretty funny meme. Of course, it has to do with electric stuff, like electric cars. But want to make everything electric? Start with the border wall. Now, that might be better than shooting people. So, Germany says enough. Government bans all new Ukraine military aid. So they've had enough. Germany says no more. British government to label misogynists as domestic terrorists. And I don't know how you're going to be classified as a misogynist, but I guess it's anyone who they want to point the finger at. So yeah, Britain and just the UK in general, I think, is completely out of control. And who is it that's in charge over there? Ex-U.S. Army officer warns that Ukraine might trigger another Chernobyl. Yeah, they're working on it. I covered that on the Friday show that I did. They're trying to potentially, I don't know if it'll be a Chernobyl or not, but they're talking about possibly 2 different dirty bombs going off over there. So they've got plans for it, apparently. They've already put them in position. So hopefully it won't happen. I'm just saying it is a possibility. We talked about that on the show the other night. China to start screening arrivals for monkeypox. So yes, apparently they've decided this is the next pandemic. Planned Parenthood to offer free vasectomies and abortions during the DNC. During the DNC. Planned Parenthood will be offering free vasectomies and abortions during this year's Democrat National Convention, according to the New York Times. Planned Parenthood will set up a mobile health clinic blocks away from it. So I guess it won't be. I thought maybe they were going to put them right on the stage. Because, I mean, the people that would be there would probably love to see it in person. So why wouldn't they just put it on the stage? That's how they're going to get the votes. Pope Francis orders humanity to follow Universal Bishop Klaus Schwab during the end times. How about that? All right, headlines on information liberation. We'll just look at these real quick. Israel tells Western allies it expects them to strike Iran if Jewish state is attacked. Trump calls for increased immigration. See, this is what I was saying earlier. Trump calls for increased immigration. I think he means illegally. We need more people, especially with AI coming. So I don't think he means illegal immigration, just a guess. But yeah, again, he's out there pushing the whole AI thing. Trump pledges to restore Israel's lobby power over Congress. He's gonna restore it, like it's been hurt. You're gonna have the president, okay? I thought that our president was Benjamin Netanyahu, didn't you? Sure seemed like it when he came to town. All right, Sputnik. Biden considering long-range missiles to Ukraine, which is the whole reason that this deal with between Russia and Ukraine really started up with. I mean, Putin wasn't going to put up with having missiles just a few minutes flight time from Ukraine to Moscow. But this says Biden considering long-range missiles to Ukraine. U.S. AFRICON moves on Libya and neocon war on dissent. So several things here to look at. U.S. is supporting Ukrainian attacks on Russian civilian targets and cracking down on internal dissent. Yes, they are. Although not as much as they are in the UK. At least not yet. So that's on Sputnik. All right, let's keep moving, though. Gateway Pundit. Is Kamala drunk? 2 sheets to the wind. Kamala Harris rattles off embarrassing word salad about the duality to the nature of democracy. So there she goes. Has she been drinking? Apparently, there's some rumors that she has a little bit of a problem with that. So I don't know. I'm not sure if that's something that's going to get reported much in the mainstream. But speaking of mainstream media, I guess Kamala is so full of joy. Have a look at this. Once again, all of the mainstream media websites and papers and stuff they just happen to be on the same page. Literally. Says now joy is fueling her campaign. Ticket, the Harris Walz ticket wields joy against Trump. Bringing back the joy. Harris and Walz seize on joyful message. New politics of joy. Without popping the joy balloon. Harris is pushing joy. So I guess joy is the new theme song for this week or whenever. But CBS, New York Times, AP, Vanity Fair, twice, Rolling Stone, Washington Post, New York Times again, I guess, and Salon. That's just a few. There's NPR as well. So, and The Guardian. Wow. Anyway, she's so full of joy. She's probably so full of joy because she's drunk. That's my guess. All right. IDF expands Gaza operations as Blinken arrives for his 9th visit to Israel. U.S. Secretary of State Blinken has landed in Israel on Sunday, that would be today, for his 9th visit since October 7th as part of an ongoing effort to achieve ceasefire in Gaza. Yeah, good luck with that. I don't think the Israelis want any part of that, do you? He's expected to meet with Bibi at 11 o'clock tomorrow, alongside which there will be meetings with Defense Minister Gallant and all these other criminals. U.S. says the Biden administration has constantly claimed to be at the goal line of achieving a truce deal. A refrain heard for months, but still nothing official to show. Rumors of wars. Although what's happening in Gaza is a genocide. Anyway, there's more here on this story, including a tweet here by, this is WikiLeaks. I don't know if that's actually, maybe it is really the WikiLeaks. Twitter X says, I'm bored, so I shoot. Israeli soldiers describe near total absence of firing regulations in Gaza, with troops shooting as they please, setting homes ablaze, and leaving corpses on the streets, all with their commander's permission. But, again, it's Israel, so it's okay if they do it, isn't it? Well, they think it is. So, who knows how far that's going to go with Blinken and company there, but is there anything left in Gaza to cease fire from, Kathy says. Yeah, I don't know. I think they've pretty much demolished it at this point. So, yeah, they're having lots of fun murdering everybody over there, so who knows? But they want to rebuild the Levant. They want to seize the land, and my guess is they're going to not stop until they can do as much of that as they can. Despite overwhelming advantage in military equipment, Israel is incapable of destroying Hamas in Gaza, U.S. officials have now concluded. The insider scoop that Israel stands no chance at achieving its objectives in Gaza, according to U.S. government insiders who doubt the Jewish state's bravado will pan out with success. Citing insider sources, the New York Times reported that the Biden regime is pressing Bibi to accept a ceasefire and stop the war. The Israeli hostages would be returned from Gaza to their homes as part of the deal. Netanyahu, meanwhile, is being pressured by the extreme far-right members of his cabinet to do the opposite and keep fighting. Under no circumstances should Israel accept a ceasefire until Hamas is eradicated, these politicians on the right insist. So that's what they're saying. According to the Times, a growing number of national security officials across the U.S. government believe that the Israeli military has already pretty much stopped Hamas from being able to pull off another stunt like the one that occurred October 7th in the stand down. They've stopped them all right because they've killed pretty much everybody. I don't know what the latest numbers are. There were millions of people that lived there. I mean, I don't know what's it down to now. Any ideas? I've not really heard. I know there's a lot of missing people who aren't probably even in the numbers, the official numbers. To continue fighting will do nothing to retrieve the roughly 115 living and dead hostages that remain in the possession of the Palestinians. So, both sides are certainly problematic in this situation. So it's very sad to see what's happening there, but I don't really see it ending. Not anytime soon. Of course, Israel may get their what's handed to them pretty soon. I don't know, depending on what happens with Iran and all of that and the rumors of war. China produces documentary mocking America's collapse. Everywhere is garbage. This is coming from China. The Chinese are now releasing films documenting the collapse of American cities and society, and they had nothing to do with it. Right? There's a clip of this new documentary and posted on X showcasing the collapse of Oakland. Chinese are making documentaries about ultra-extreme poverty and decaying cities since they don't exist in China anymore, this person wrote. So who knows? Maybe they don't. But we know that they definitely had a hand in what's happening now because they control the people at the top. The Chi-Coms do, people at the top in this country. They're certainly like a vending machine. Biden and company, they're like a vending machine. You just put in the money and you get out whatever you ask for. The Biden vending machine. The Chi-Coms own and operate it. Fox News host conducts interview with lifelike AI clone. Company curates AI bot based on content you provided. The clone told Fox Business that the technology outlives people and preserves their memory for generations to come. And Ray Kurzweil is very happy about this, I'm sure. Allowing future generations of great-grandchildren to interact with clones of those who came before them and learn about their lives. Yeah, so forget the photo album. You can interact with your dead relatives via AI. Good plan. No, that's pretty much sick and evil, isn't it? Well, this is I don't think I'll play it just because we watched that long video a little while ago. But I will talk over it and just show you. You guys can go watch this if you want to. Not now, but you can watch it. I'll link to this like I do all the other articles on the Substack post that I send out on Tuesday. And the video here is the real person is on your left, and the fake person, the AI clone of that same guy, is on the right, answering questions. And I don't know if the guy on the left, the human, is inputting anything as the interview is happening or not. He may not be. It may just be responding. So very creepy, very creepy. But you can see where they want to take it with the dead relatives and so forth. That's not good. Not good at all. So that one's on Wine Press. And then we've got a few Gateway Pundit articles. Musk shares devastating video, the unraveling of Kamala, on his X page. Kamala was so bad she folded before her first primary contest. So this is talking about the previous election in 2020. So a couple elections ago now. Kamala Harris did not even last until the first election contest in 2020. She was so bad she was forced to drop out. Yeah. So anyway, that is a video that Musk put out. I won't bother playing it, but it is there. It says the video reminds us that Harris was so shallow and unlikable during her initial run for president in the Democrat Party primary that she dropped out before the Iowa caucus. Again, 2020. So we'll see what happens this year. We are fast approaching it. Speaking of which, disgraced reunion. I don't know how disgraced they are, though. There's still, unfortunately, a lot of people who worship these criminals. Obama's and Clinton's to spew same old liberal propaganda at the DNC. And one of these people on the screen will probably be the nominee for president, and it might not be Harris. So, I don't know. Probably can't be these guys. But they're certainly happy being first husbands. Or in the case of Obama, he's going to have at least his fourth term, it sounds like. I mean, if it's Michelle that ends up in there, he gets his fourth term. If it's Hillary that ends up in there, which I still maintain that that's probably what's going to happen. I mean, never underestimate the power and the evil of Hillary and Bill and the Clinton organization. Seriously. I don't think Obama gets a fourth term, though, if Hillary is in there. It seems to be a different group. All these groups are backstabbing and vying for power. So it'll be interesting to see who has the final say here. I think Obama does control Kamala. So if it's her that gets it, then it will be his fourth term, it looks like. Or of course, if it's his wife/husband, Big Mike, that gets in, he still gets his fourth term. So Obama is a really good chance of having yet another presidency. So we'll see how it works out. Burned out. I saw this and thought this was actually good news. Desert Debauchery Festival, Burning Man, fails to sell out for the first time in a decade. And I remembered what happened last year. I don't know if you guys do or not. They had a lot of rain and kind of made their little festival last year very miserable for pretty much everybody. So it says the Burning Man Festival is a hard sell this year. The annual raucous week-long immersion in debauchery held in Nevada's Black Rock Desert usually sells out quickly, sometimes in minutes. But days ahead of its August 25th opening, there are still tickets to be had, according to Guardian. So yeah, it's a few days away yet. This is the first year since 2011 the festival has not sold out. Executive director said Burning Man has had a rocky few years. It was canceled in 2020 and 2021 due to COVID, and in 2022, record-setting heat fried the allure of days spent in the desert. In 2023, massive rains turned the playa around the Burning Man site into miles of impassable mud, leaving many who attended stranded for days. Yeah, that's what I remember. The last few years have been tough for weather and being able to properly plan. Now, was that weather warfare gone wrong or gone right, or what was that? There's nothing natural these days in the weather, so I don't think it was anything, quote, natural. So who knows? But there still will be a Burning Man. They're just saying that it's not sold out. So I guess that's good news to some degree, because maybe not as many people are going to go be evil in the next week or so. We'll see how it works out. Amazing Jesus revolution reported in Iran. Mosques close as Muslims turn to Christianity. When you think of Iran and religion, Christianity isn't what comes to mind. Well, no wonder Israel wants to bomb them back to the Stone Age. They're Christians. Well, there are some, I guess. The Middle Eastern nation isn't just the biggest Shiite Muslim state in the world, it's also one of the most draconian. When it comes to enforcing the tenets of the religion, the country's morals police is again in the international spotlight after they reportedly shot a woman last month for a violation of the country's mandatory hijab laws, according to the AP. However, amid the severity of the country's morality crackdown is a ray of light for Christians. Iran may well be in the midst of what some commentators are calling a Jesus revolution. How about that? In a Tuesday article for faith-based outlet CBN, they described an unprecedented number of Muslims are choosing to follow Christ, especially in Iran, as people search for a better life. It's amazing that they're even free to do that. It says you have a country with one of the highest drug addiction rates in the world. You have a country where corruption runs rampant. You have a country where more than half of the people live below the poverty line. Says this person from the Voice of the Martyrs, a non-governmental organization, so NGO, focused around providing support for persecuted Christians. And the people of Iran are looking at this and saying, wait a minute, if this is what Islam has brought us the last 45 years, we're not interested. We want to know what the other options are. Thousands of mosques close as 1 million Muslims choose Christ instead. So that's good news. Now, I guess my question, though, would be, are these 1 million Christians, new Christians maybe, going to be able to continue living? Because I don't think Islam is going to be too excited about Christians. So is that going to be a new war budding over there? Hopefully not. But anyway, I thought that was kind of an interesting article. I had not heard of that before. Harris campaign kicks out patrons from a Pennsylvania sandwich shop to bring in staged customers, quote unquote, for Kamala's visit. The Harris and Walls team are making stops in Western PA on their bus tour ahead of the DNC convention in Chicago, which begins on Monday. So this will be an interesting week coming up. Harris took a few softball questions from the press. And it says they actually kicked out patrons at Primanti Brothers to bring in staged customers for Kamala's visit. Sounds about right. It says, "You're terrible people," the Trump supporters shouted as white vans pulled up to the sandwich shop. "They kicked us out of the Primanti Brothers so they could get their paid actors inside," one of the supporters said. So, wow. Kicking out people in the sandwich shop. Way to go, commie. UK man sentenced to 3 years in prison for posts on X. Wow. UK sentenced a man to 3 years in prison because of his X posts. Wayne O'Rourke, I mentioned this guy the other night on the broadcast, was sentenced to 3 years in prison for social media posts he made after 3 young girls were stabbed to death in Southport. Last month, a knife attack in Southport in northwest of England left 3 young children dead, 5 others are in critical condition, and 2 adults were also hurt. The murdered children have now been named by Merseyside police as 9-year-old Alice, 6-year-old Bibi, and 7-year-old Elsie. According to AP, a witness described seeing bloodied children running from a community center where a Taylor Swift-themed dance and yoga event, well, that's a problem too, for children aged about 6 to 11 was taking place. Emergency services responded to the scene. Police reported that they had detained a 17-year-old male suspect and seized the weapon. UK law prevents the release of details on the suspect because he's under 18. Southport residents were livid after authorities tried to downplay the deadly stabbing. Wayne O'Rourke was arrested for stirring up racial hatred, quote unquote, meaning reporting the facts. That's what he did. People of Southport, where the F are you? Get out to the street, O'Rourke said in a post on X. So anyway, this guy is not going to be out of prison anytime soon. Yeah, and who is it in control over there? Have to keep beating that drum. All right, you got to see this. So if you're getting ready to tune out, don't tune out yet. You got to see this. Must see 32-week unborn baby in the womb smiles at daddy's voice in the ultrasound. I kid you not. Beautiful video was released of a young father in Brazil speaking to his baby at 32 weeks of development in the womb. The baby starts smiling as the father is speaking. What a beautiful video. Democrats are holding their convention in Chicago and refuse to propose any restrictions on abortion. No, that's their religion. They would never do that. Everything goes. Biden accused the United States of being an outlier in the international community following the Supreme Court's decision, Roe v. Wade, in 2022. Of course, it was another Democrat lie. Yeah, so you guys, I know where you guys are, and you guys know where I am on abortion, so we don't really need to continue with that article. However, you got to see this video, and I've got it here on YouTube. So let's, I'll stay on camera. We'll just play this.
Nenê do pai. Mas, meu Deus do céu, gente. Ela tá feliz, meu Deus do céu. Bebê. Mas, gente do céu. Nenê do pai. Mas, meu Deus do céu, gente.
Man, that's just amazing. I thought that was really wild, really wild. And the other amazing and strange thing that happened here is that it's the New York Post that reported it. So, not sure what they were thinking. They were showing here that obviously abortion is murder. So I don't know. They probably are gonna need to rethink that, and or someone probably just got fired from the New York Post. All right, quote of the day. Now you guys know I don't really like J.D. Vance, but this was a good quote, so I wanted to give him props on this. Giving Kamala Harris control over inflation is like giving Jeffrey Epstein control over human trafficking policy. That's funny. That's good. Facial recognition becoming more common in U.S. schools. Biometric systems for school safety and security continue to gain ground in the U.S. with more rollouts unveiled and a new director appointed by ROC. But the recent reprimand issued by a UK regulator shows the fine line that must be walked for compliance in school settings. So this is talking about the U.S. schools, though. Schools in the township of Sparta, New Jersey, Madison Metropolitan School District in Wisconsin have each selected visitor management system with facial recognition software. It says Visitor Aware, which includes facial recognition and ID scanning. Collects each visitor's name, ID document, and date of birth, address, and sex, along with a facial photo. Then it checks the data against the National Sex Offenders Registry, Most Wanted list from Interpol and the FBI. Wow. So I guess if you're on all of those lists, they will let you come in. If you're not on the list, then they probably won't let you in. Just a guess. Anyways, that's on Activist Post. And then Global Research, I thought I would start bringing their articles back into the fold on the Diamond Report, because it's a good site. I'd kind of forgotten about it for a while, honestly. But if you don't know what Global Research is, it's a good one. Globalresearch.ca. I believe they're Canadian. But it says former UN weapons inspector Scott Ritter persecuted by his own government. Author, journalist, former UN weapons inspector Ritter correctly advised the world that Iraq did not have weapons of mass destruction prior to Washington's criminal invasion of Iraq in 2003. Quote, for humanitarian reasons, the war continues to take a toll on multitudes, with Washington's siege of mass destruction having killed about 600,000 children under 5. Its use of depleted uranium still destroying lives, and the death toll from ongoing combat and destabilization is still growing. More recently, Ritter's been decimating establishment narratives about Russia and Ukraine with a view to promoting peace. Well, you can't do that. What are some of these inconvenient, though well-documented truths? First, as admitted by NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, the war started in 2014. In 2014, Washington and its allies orchestrated a coup using neo-Nazis and genocidal ethnic nationalist groups groomed since the end of World War II by Western intelligence agencies to mass murder civilians in Odessa, to send the elected president fleeing, and to install a Nazi-infested coup government, which is the Zelensky regime. That's exactly what they did. Obama and company threw out the democratically elected government of Ukraine and replaced them with a puppet regime, meaning Zelensky, who's an actor, as we all know, and all the rest of them. So anyway, there's quite a bit to this article, so you can check that out. We'll link to this in the Substack post. This is the most terrifying thing I've heard her say. This is the tweet that I was mentioning earlier. Now, this is, I guess, from 2019, but still, it applies, and you know that she still thinks this way.
I will snatch their patent so that we will take over. And yes, we can do that. Yes, we can do that. Yes, we can do that. It's the question is, do you have the will to do it? I have the will to do it.
Yeah, I think she probably does have the will to do it. Kamala Harris wants to confiscate patents owned by individuals and companies for their products. I will snatch their patent so that we, the federal government, will take over. I hope all the businessmen are listening. Is that legal? I will make it legal. Yeah, for sure. So, that's on notthebee.com. Thought you guys would want to see that. California teacher preparing for back to school finds a bear in her classroom. Peak to Peak Mountain Charter School teacher, get this name, Elaine Salmon, I kid you not, was preparing for a back to school season in Southern California when she opened the door to find a bear rummaging through her classroom. Yes, her name is literally Salmon. And it's got the salmon smacking the bear in the face. Pretty funny. Salmon said, I opened my classroom door and this bear was charging toward the door. Salmon said that she quickly shut and locked the door, then immediately called her husband for backup. How about that? When asked why she called her husband instead of the authorities, she said, because he's my man, you know? Uh-huh. Pretty funny. There's the bear. No, here's the bear right here. So let's watch.
There was a bear charging at me.
Earlier this week, teacher Elaine Salmon here, yes, Salmon, was just returning from making some copies for the new school year when she found this unexpected guest, immediately shut the door, and called her husband. Why not the authorities?
Well, because he's my man, you know.
Also, it helps that her husband, Ian, is a retired police officer who says bears are a pretty regular thing here in the mountains near Bakersfield, California. For example, here is one who recently opened their car door. So, Ian arrived within 10 minutes and then uncovered the big problem here.
He wants to get out.
I know, but how are we going to do it without being in the way?
The heavy metal door would have to be held open on the inside. The bear most likely got in the classroom by using his paw to push it open, but that means to let him out, someone would have to go in there and say, "This way, sir."
Is he over there?
They got down to business. Elaine distracted the bear by tapping on the opposite window, while Ian snuck in behind the door.
Here, bear. Here, bear. Come here, bear.
Thankfully, the bear eventually obeyed and just sauntered by Ian out into the night.
Ah!
And then Ian growled to scare him away while Elaine hid behind a fence. Everyone was fine, there were only minor damages, and maybe a new dynamic duo just emerged in the town's ever-growing human-bear relations department.
We're a team. Mama bear and Papa bear.
By the way, I mentioned minor damages. The main one was that the bear went into one of the classroom's emergency earthquake kits to eat the snacks in there. And crazily enough, as you may know, there was literally an earthquake near Bakersfield the next day. Thankfully, though, they did not need the kit.
Wow, what a story. Feel good story. But the bear was okay, and everybody lived. So, very interesting, huh? And I wanted to show you something here. Something that I noticed just as it was rolling by here. It was early on. Right there. Now, let me enlarge this picture so you can see it. Look at this image on her shirt. You ever seen that before? Well, here, let me turn the camera that's on me off just so you can see it better. Hold on. Look at that. You ever seen that picture? I think you have if you've watched this show before. You've seen it. Because here's what it is. Okay. You guys remember this? Look at this green guy down here. It's the Green Man who was on the coronation invitation from King Charles. Looks like it to me. Looks like the same guy to me. I don't know. Anyway, I just thought that was odd that she's wearing a shirt with the Green Man on it. Wow. Weird. Yes. Very strange. Anyway, that's a kind of a feel-good story. At least everybody was okay and the bear was fine. So anyway, I thought it was funny. They said Southern California. Bakersfield is not Southern California, I don't think, is it? Any Californians out there? Isn't Bakersfield like... Because I've been there. I'm trying to remember. It seemed like it was up when we were going to Yosemite. It seemed like it was up that direction. Anyway, I didn't look it up, but they said Southern California right here. I don't think it's Southern California. Maybe I'm wrong. Trump shares image of Comrade Kamala addressing communist DNC event. So there's Commie Com out there with the hammer and sickle. Former President Trump shared an epic AI-generated image. See, I told you, Trump is into AI all of a sudden. AI-generated image of Comrade Kamala addressing the DNC in the likeness of a Soviet communist gathering. Well, it is. It's exactly what it'll be. They just won't have the hammer and sickle, and they'll be wearing blue, I think, instead of red, because red is associated with Republicans for some reason. So, anyways, pretty wild. Pretty wild. Yeah, it's Trump and the AI stuff. I don't know. Very strange. Governor Whitmer giving driver's licenses and free college and free health care to illegals resonates with Americans, she says. No, it resonates with migrants. Illegal migrants. Yeah. The spirit of those things should be part of any vision for the country and our security and how we bring great people into this country legally, she says. None of that is true, and they're not bringing anybody in legally. Not when they come running across the border, right? I mean, talk about gaslighting. Harris campaign co-chair Governor Whitmer of Michigan claimed giving driver's licenses, free college, and free health care to illegal aliens is pragmatic policy that will resonate with Americans because we have to pay for it and they get all the free goodies. Whitmer made the remarks on Meet the Depressed on Sunday when asked by host Welker her thoughts on Harris's running mate Walz enacting those radical policies in his state of Minnesota. Obviously, some of his policies in his state have come into focus. He signed into law initiatives allowing undocumented migrants or immigrants to apply for driver's licenses, quality free tuition for public universities, and enroll in the state's free healthcare program from low-income residents. Would you like to see the Harris administration adopt those same policies, Governor? And she replied, Walz is a pragmatic guy. He's a Midwesterner just like me. And I think some of the wonderful things he's done in Minnesota resonate with Americans in all states. Gag. Wow. But it's to be expected, of course. She's working for the freaking presidential hopeful team here. So, I don't know. I guess it's not that surprising that she says it, but wow. Very sick, though, for sure. Democrats begged Kamala not to unveil any more policy proposals until after the election. Just shut up. Democrat lawmakers are begging Harris not to release any more policy proposals until after the election. Well, she's just stealing all of Trump's. I mean, that's what she's doing right now, which, of course, she has no intention of making good on. She's just taking them from him, campaigning on it, and then her throngs of people, the people that are actually going to see her, are loving it. But what they don't know is they're actually loving the Trump proposals here. Yeah. So that's on InfoWars. And then I found these memes. Thought this was pretty funny. Forward and Marxism. With and without the shades. And then you are here. A little bit in between ethnic conflict, rampant degeneracy, political collapse, fall of the Roman Empire, 1990s Yugoslavia, and Weimar Germany. We're right there. I mentioned this one the other night on the broadcast, and it's definitely worth watching because it gives you an indication of how much gear was left behind. And the Taliban has it all. Insane. Taliban holds a massive parade showing off its U.S. military hardware left behind by Biden. Taliban extremists paraded a massive haul of American military hardware around the streets of Afghanistan on Wednesday, reminding the world what a catastrophic failure the Biden withdrawal from the country was in 2021. Parade features Humvees, armored vehicles, helicopters, and weapons. Was held close to near the former U.S. Bagram Air Base. So this is just a parade where it just goes on and on with all these military gear. And I think I said the other night that I feel like a lot of this footage is probably going to end up in a Trump campaign ad. If it doesn't, it should, for sure, because that will be a good reminder of what the Biden administration did. Modernity.news again, 61-year-old man gets 18-month prison sentence for chanting, "Who the F is Allah?" That's all he did. Also told police officers outside Downing Street, "You're not English anymore." Oh, well, that probably did it. 61-year-old man was jailed for chanting, "Who the F is Allah?" and telling police officers you're not English anymore during the protest outside Downing Street. Yes, really. The sentence handed out to David Spring is the latest shocking example of how low the bar has now been set in terms of free speech in response to rioting that occurred after the murder of 3 girls in Southport, which I mentioned that earlier. So yet another person who's simply protesting is going to jail or maybe to prison. I don't know which. So, not good. I saw this article as well and thought the headline just by itself was pretty funny. Staff at Wembley Stadium told to look out for, quote, strange people during the Taylor Swift concert. But the police are busy arresting people for tweets. Staff at Wembley, which is in London, will be trained to watch out for strange people, quote unquote, during 5 consecutive Taylor Swift concerts in London later this week, following a plot by Islamic terrorists to attack the Swift gig in Vienna. So they're just going to have to look out for some strange people. That'll be easy to spot. Anyway. T-Swift. So that's on Modernity as well. Vaccine impact. Ukrainian mercenary NATO forces invade Russia, targeting civilian populations, which I mentioned that earlier. So this is the full article on what's going on there. Yeah, Ukrainians ordered to shoot civilians during the Kursk attack, and they're also apparently kidnapping him, as I mentioned earlier tonight. I don't know if that article talks about that. I think that's brand new headlines that came across earlier tonight. So anyway, that's on vaccineimpact.com. The other headlines that I normally mention, I mentioned on the show the other night, so we won't do that again. And then GeoWatch for this week, we had the show from yesterday, August 17th. It's called Steering Storms, the Risks of Experimenting with the Sun, from the report, which was put out by the New York Times. This technology could never restore the climate, but would further destabilize an already disturbed climate system, leading to unforeseen and irreversible ecological disasters and severely affecting current and future generations. It says from foreignaffairs.com, the battle over blocking the sun, why the world needs rules for solar geoengineering. The report then states policymakers have given little attention to the potential dangers of unilateral SAI, stratospheric aerosol injection, aka jet aircraft, sprayed aerosol dispersions in our skies. If we remain on the current course, our days are numbered. So that's Dane's show for this week. Global Alert News, August 17th, which was the Saturday show, and it was the same on all the platforms this week, on Spotify and BitChute and Rumble and on YouTube, which that's the one that's embedded here on the page, geoengineeringwatch.org. So definitely make sure you check that one out. It's a good broadcast. And then the scheduled weather for this week, we're all going to be hot again, it looks like. Back to the heat. Except for a little bit out in the west. There's below temperatures, but pretty much everybody else is going to be hot. So just so you're aware, scheduled weather for the week. Now this is a short clip. Let me play this, and before you start throwing up here, I'll just warn you ahead of time. This is a Christian pastor, Kenneth Copeland supporter, and somebody that's probably going to, I don't know, depending on your perspective, I guess, you're going to really dislike what he says. But it's only about a minute long, and I wanted to play this because it kind of leads into the next thing. So here's this. It says George Persons, or Pearsons, I don't know which, George Pearsons probably. Biden is cursing the U.S., which he is, I'll give you that. But it says he's cursing the U.S. by pressing Israel for a two-state solution. Okay. So here's what old George Pearsons has to say.
And here we are, right in the midst of this crazy administration that is currently endeavoring to push this two-state solution, or what we hear, the two-state delusion. And every time they do that, every time they try to do that, they're endeavoring to invoke the curse on our nation. But we're taking our authority over that.
Yes,
we do not stand for that. As a matter of fact, we had two wonderful Jewish men with us last Sunday, and I stood up in front of my congregation, and I said to my congregation and to them, you are not alone. Eagle Mountain International Church stands with you. Kenneth Copeland Ministries stands with you. And I was so bold as to say, the United States of America stands with you when they talk about a two-state solution. Well, that sounds nice. That sounds good. Let's all work out together. But we see what took place with the Gaza Strip. We see what happened in the Gaza Strip when Israel gave up the land. That was God's land. That was for the Israeli people.
Amen.
And they gave them up. And all of a sudden, we had to have Israeli military getting people out of there, kicking them out. And at the same moment in time, Hurricane Katrina hit the United States, and 1 million people were displaced in the United States. And the government needs to wake up and connect the dots and see that when you are a curse to Israel, you will be cursed. When you're a blessing to Israel, you will be blessed. And I will stop preaching right now.
Well, good. I'm glad you did, because I don't buy it. I don't buy it. So, anyways, somebody should tell him it's not the same Israel. That's where I stand on that. But all that to say, the main reason that I wanted to bring that up was he's talking about the two-state solution, which is, it's basically dividing up part of Israel, or part of Jerusalem in particular, even. And it is an interesting thing, and it turns out that that was mentioned in a more or less fairly recent video that author Tim Cohen put out. And I'm not sure if I've got it queued up here on this same clip here, but I wanted to play just a little bit of this, because this is Cohen talking about the biblical Antichrist, which he believes, and I also believe, is and will be King Charles. And the whole two-state solution thing is talked about as part of prophecy in this video. So if you haven't seen this video, it's called The Antichrist, King Charles III, World War III, and the Great Tribulation. And he is with, what's his name, Nino. I guess it doesn't say here on the David Rodriguez is the guy's name. But this particular video is on Rodriguez's channel, but it's also on Tim Cohen's channel. He just posted it not too long ago. But I just thought it was pretty interesting, because what I've got queued up here is the place where he is talking about how the seal, or the coat of arms, whatever you want to call it, for King Charles, how it fits what the Bible talks about, and then he goes into the number calculation. So I thought it was pretty interesting, and also the two-state solution thing is mentioned in this video as well. So let's just watch a little bit of this, and we'll be right back.
In the center of the heraldic achievement here, in the center right here where I'm putting my fingers, there's a red lion right here. And a lot of people have looked at this red lion and said, that's a red dragon. And this red lion is on William's heraldic achievement also. And they think it's a red dragon, but actually it's the red lion of Scotland in heraldry. It is not a red dragon. That's one of their errors. This is the actual red dragon down here of Wales. Okay? That's an actual red dragon. William does not have the red dragon. He does not have a little horn in the eyes of man. So an unusual thing about this unicorn is it has human eyes. He does not have the lion, leopard, bear, beast. Only Charles has that. William has a normal lion or lion leopard, which represents England in heraldry. No one else has ever had the lion, leopard, bear, beast. Only Charles. Instead of the normal lion or lion leopard for England. Only Charles has the red dragon in combination with that. No one else has ever had that combination. Only Charles, in combination with those things, has the little horn of the eyes of a man, the unicorn with human eyes. Jeez. Now, where does this imagery come from? Beast with feet like a bear, body like a leopard, mouth like a lion, Revelation 13. The red dragon, identified explicitly as Satan, which gives this beast his power, throne, and great authority? Revelation chapters 12 and 13. The little horn of the eyes of a man, for this Roman prince who rules for 3.5 years, the same period as this beast does in Revelation 13. The little horn of the eyes of a man who rules for 3.5 years, Daniel chapter 7 in the Old Testament. This imagery, Daniel 7 and also Daniel 9, but I won't get into that here, but Daniel 7 and Revelation 13 and Revelation 12 all comes together on this heraldic achievement. William will never have this imagery. He can never have it. It's unique to Charles under international law and the laws and rules of heraldry, literally. It's like his personal thumbprint or calling card in terms of heraldry forever.
Gotcha.
Okay? And William is not going to be invested Prince of Wales. Charles was. Only a few of the Prince of Wales historically were ever invested. William was only declared Prince of Wales. There's no plan to have a formal crowning for him as Prince of Wales. And even if there were one, it wouldn't make any difference. It wouldn't change his imagery that he already has. Secondly, William does not have a name or title that calculates to 666 biblically. And when I say biblically, I mean on a system that's not contrived, that Scripture actually identifies. Scripture actually tells us the system and how to use it. And I'll explain that in a minute. It's not something we can go figure out or invent, in other words, Nino. So William does not have a name or title that calculates to 666. So he lacks the imagery. He lacks the name calculation. He also lacks the international control and power. To give one example of that, and there are many in the book, but Charles has literally been running the world as Prince of Wales and now as King Charles III since his July 1969 investiture. He has run the world behind the scenes without having a formal government yet. Here's one example that everyone will know when I point it out, okay? Everyone on the planet pretty much will know this one, but not realize that Charles is the one over it, okay? Till I point this out. Klaus Schwab founded the World Economic Forum, right? He did that in 1970 or 1971, depending on the source that you read. That was shortly after Charles' investure as Prince of Wales or Prince of the Red Dragon or Satan's prince, where he said his father put the crown on his head, meaning the devil did, okay? Klaus Schwab is a knight of Charles. He's under Charles. He's one of his knights.
Interesting.
Charles has personally spoken at the World Economic Forum multiple times. Klaus Schwab always defers to him. Everyone has heard of the Great Reset, right?
Yeah.
Today, pretty much. Do you know who announced the Great Reset to the world?
King Charles.
Prince Charles did.
Prince Charles.
From the World Economic Forum itself. He announced it months before Klaus Schwab published his book by the same title. It was Charles who announced the Great Reset, not Klaus Schwab, to the whole world. It is Charles' agenda, not Klaus Schwab's agenda. The World Economic Forum is comprised of top leadership of the world. For example, more than half of, and I like to point this out because it's really shocking to people, more than half of Justin Trudeau's cabinet is part of the World Economic Forum, including Trudeau himself. Joe Biden is part of the World Economic Forum. He sat there and listened to Charles, make these pronouncements in the World Economic Forum, personally. Biden did. Charles has talked about a him to whom, trillions of dollars need to be put at his disposal, right? To bring about the agenda, this 2030 agenda of the World Economic Forum, where you'll own nothing.
Yeah, be careful here because this is YouTube.
Yeah, the him and the his is actually the devil to whom Charles was referring, Lucifer. Now, I point out in this book that by virtue of the crown, Charles is exponentially more wealthy than all the trillionaires and billionaires of the world combined.
Jeez.
He has tens of trillions of dollars of wealth at his disposal. Whether he could ever access it or not is an entirely different question. Academically, he has tens of trillions with a T at his disposal just by virtue of the crown alone. I explain how that works in this book. So Charles has the imagery, right? I said he has the name calculation, so let me show that. There's a biblical system identified in the Greek text of Revelation 13:18. You cannot find it in the English. The English is just a translation of the original Greek text. And in the Greek text, from that system, because the system is what's actually used to specify the number 666. It's not given in the form of words. It's given in the form of 3 Greek letters. One for 600, a second for 60, and a third for 6. And because the number's specified that way, and the system itself is sequential, not phonetic, it was historically transferred from Hebrew to Greek sequentially, not phonetically. For those reasons and others that I explain in the book, we can transfer that same system to any language and calculate the value, almost any language, not Chinese or Mandarin or something like that, but almost any language, certainly any Latin-based language. And we can calculate the values of names and words without tampering with them. We don't have to translate them. We don't have to transliterate them. We can calculate them directly and see how they come out, right? Now, the title Charles, Prince of Wales is a bit like Christ Jesus of Nazareth, right? Or Apostle Paul of Tarsus or Apostle Saul of Tarsus. It's the biblical way of stating a name, okay? Like Charles, Prince of Wales or Prince Charles of Wales. It's a biblical format. That title by which he's known globally, up until he became king, but again, he retains the imagery. He's already been identified as the Antichrist. Mm-hmm. That title on this system, which is the biblical numbering system, I lay it out, in detail here in the book, in more than one language, calculates to exactly 666, including on the original non-transferred system. Mathematically, that is not possible.
Wow.
It cannot ever happen, ever in the history of the universe. But it's a fact. Here it is in black and white in the book. So he has the imagery, he has the name calculation using the biblical system with no tampering, no transliteration, in Hebrew. In English, Wales in Hebrew.
So in all languages, it all adds up to 666.
No, not all languages, but in Hebrew and English, it does.
Hebrew and English, okay.
On the original system, not transferred, and then that same system transferred sequentially to English, 666, using the precedence of it being transferred sequentially to Greek, with the Greek version, with that precedence being used to specify 666 in the New Testament in the original language before it's translated to English. So that combination by itself proves that Charles is the Antichrist unambiguously, scripturally. It literally can't be anybody else. And that doesn't even begin to get into the level of evidence in this book. That's just the biblical core evidence. He descends from King David, claims to sit on Israel's throne. He descends from Muhammad. He's a shoo-in to claim to be Islam's Mahdi to both Sunni and Shiite Islam. He claims descent from Jesus through this occult Merovingian lineage, okay, which is that is the basis for royalty of Europe, particularly, to claim to have some divine right to rule. Many of the royals allege this descent from Jesus, which is called the Merovingian lineage. That's where the book and the movie The Last Temptation of Christ, Holy Blood, Holy Grail, that's the basis for these things. It's an occult false claim. And an alternate version of that claim alleges descent from the red dragon, having raped Mary. It's a claim that Satan raped Mary and produces the seed that has the divine right to rule. And in fact, Charles believes both are true. Okay?
So he appeals to all religions.
As a perverted version in his mind of who Jesus is. And
he appeals to all religions. It's the way he's kind of chameleon. He's in with all religions, correct?
Not only is he in with them, you can pull up today on the internet photos of him participating in all of them. He's participated in voodoo ritual, and I'm talking wearing the garbs also, wearing the actual attire.
Jeez.
So voodoo ritual, witchcraft, Satanism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Zoroastrianism, Judaism, Islam. You can find photos on the internet of him participating in all of the above, wearing the garb. He even started his own religious movement, bringing all these religions together. That's documented in the book. A lot of people don't know about that. Some of the entities by which he controls the world. We all know about the United Nations, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people know that the United Nations came out of the League of Nations historically, right?
Right.
But that's where their knowledge ends, if they have that much knowledge. What they don't know is that the League of Nations came out of the Royal Institute of International Affairs, also known as Chatham House in London.
Jeez.
What they don't know is that Chatham House is headed by Charles, and it was headed by him as Prince of Wales, and now it's headed by him as King. What they don't know is that the United Nations has always been an entity under the British monarch, under Chatham House. What they don't know, for example, is that the United Nations has a global security lecture series. There's a lecture each year. Charles personally started the lecture series and personally delivered the first global security lecture at the United Nations to the Security Council. What they don't know is that Charles, around that same time, said he wanted to see a standing United Nations army with himself as the commander of that army. What they don't know is that the entire Mideast peace process, the false peace process, goes back to Charles from 1987 to this day and has been under him the whole time. The quartet is the United Nations, the United States, Russia, and the United Nations. And because the United Nations is the fourth entity in the quartet, it's the whole world. Under Charles, Tony Blair has been replaced by others under Charles. The quartet and the roadmap is still active. Now, on the side of that is the Saudi peace process, the Saudi peace initiative, which Biden, who behind the scenes, and Obama, they report to Charles through the WEF and other entities. The Saudi peace initiative they're trying to merge that with this thing under the quartet. But it's still a side thing right now. But Biden is trying to creep in there, and Trump was trying to creep in there and take some kind of control over that thing, or, make it mesh, if you will, with the quartet and their agenda for this false peace and the division of Jerusalem and the creation of this so-called Palestinian state and so forth. And now, since October 7th last year, the U.S. under Biden, under Charles, ultimately is trying to put Israel in this vice grip to force this creation of this so-called Palestinian state and threatening Israel behind the scenes in all sorts of ways. But all of that is happening under King Charles III as the Antichrist. And so we are now barreling toward the start of the Great Tribulation. And before that happens, and I should mention, and people can pull this up, in 2018, another book of mine was published called North Korea, Iran, and the Coming World War. Behold a Red Horse, 2018. I started that book in 2007. That has to do with the second seal of the apocalypse, or roughly the second year of the 7 years preceding Armageddon, with the Great Tribulation being the second half of that 7-year period, okay? The Great Tribulation is when Charles will be in direct control, initially behind the scenes, but then in direct control of a nascent global government, if you will, under 10 rulers. And I've described how that will come to pass in this book through the United Nations, okay?
Okay, that was kind of long, but I thought it was all very interesting and very relevant here. And you can see how we had a friend over here in the Rumble chat talking about Starmer, who is the prime minister, the prime murderer, as he called it, in the UK now. And yeah, I mean, he's under KC3 as well, King Charles III. So this guy has been in power for a very long time, but behind the scenes. And interesting, I thought that Tim mentioned that we are on the precipice of the Great Tribulation, which would be the final 3.5 years. And that's what I've been saying for a long time, that 2025 would be that year. And of course, we're going to see how it all plays out, but he made some really good points here, and I thought the evidence there that Tim produced on Charles being the biblical Antichrist, and how the whole calculation, the name calculation 666 works out. And I've shown that same picture before. I don't have it pulled up here, but I do have the heraldic achievement, the coat of arms, whatever you want to call it. This is it here. So this is what he was trying to show on his book that kept sort of dissolving from the weird green screen stuff that he has going on. But that is that's the picture there, and it's pretty amazing how he's put all this together and how it does fit biblically. So that's pretty wild. And then this is we looked at this earlier. This is the coronation invitation. I added the word Satan there. That was not there originally, but it might as well have Satan's name on it, right on it, because basically that's who was really invited. That's who the audience was. Charles's coronation on May the 6th, 2023. And again, if you add up all those numbers, I'm the one that told Tim this. If you add up 5/6/2023, you get 18, which is 666. And then he was using that on some interviews that he did right around there. So Tim says that one seal a year approximately. That's interesting. Yeah. So he's got a lot of really good points in there, and he does go into some further detail about some of the coming biblical signs to look for, including the division of Israel. And we're right on this precipice of the potential of Israel being involved in and or starting World War III, basically, with Iran and or Syria and whoever else they decide to use their nuclear weapons against. So who knows what happens if that happens. So I just thought that was pretty interesting and really good interview. Again, we'll link to that in the Substack post, so make sure you're on there as well. And then this is a short little clip. I'll just talk over the top of this because this does not have anything in it but music and some text. So we'll let this play, and I will just read this to kind of get this on the record. And this is it says, King Charles commends emergency services and urges unity after the riots. So this has to do with the three little girls who are killed, and then the subsequent riots that we've been talking about. All these people being jailed for just their speech. They're coming out and talking about things on social media, and then they're finding themselves being imprisoned. And then if you point back to the person at the top, that would be this guy. So it says, King Charles has reflected on the recent riots across the UK, according to Buckingham Palace. There's nothing on this video except some music, so I don't have it muted. He praised the community spirit that countered the aggression and criminality seen during the riots. Criminality. See, there's the people right there that he's supporting. Refugees welcome and Black Lives Matter and all this stuff. Stop the far right. See, notice how they're showing that in the video. The palace confirmed the king has been closely following the developments. And there's a Black Lives Matter sign. There's Starmer, his old buddy, old pal. The king had reportedly held a phone call with Starmer and senior police chiefs, probably telling them exactly what to do. Again, this is the soon-to-be Antichrist here, so of course he's got his hand in this stuff. And then he expressed his heartfelt thanks to the police and emergency services for restoring peace and arresting all of those terrible right-wing thugs. And then it says, Charles called for unity, hoping shared values will help strengthen and unite the nation. Yeah, right. Not until they jail everybody who has any opinion about this. He's been greatly encouraged by the resilience and compassion shown by communities. Interesting how he's meeting with all the different religious people there. His Majesty also expressed concern for the impact of the violence on local communities. Never mind the violence that the police were causing. His involvement comes during a summer break in Scotland where he's also recovering from illness. So he supposedly has cancer, which maybe he does, but seems to be getting along just fine. He made private calls throughout the week to support those affected by the unrest. So again, not the people he should have been supporting, of course. The king has a long history of building bridges between different faiths and cultures, which is exactly what Tim Cohen was saying in that video we were watching. Buckingham Palace said the king remains hopeful for a peaceful and united nation. Isn't that nice? His eyes look like little slits right there. Did you notice that? His pupils. So, they do to me. Serpentine slits. Anyway, that's KC3. That's the news I had for you on Charles, and I thought the whole Tim Cohen presentation was really good. Highly recommend that you go watch that. I haven't bought the book. I haven't read his book or anything, but I have followed him pretty closely for the last couple of years now, Tim Cohen meaning. And I think he's doing some good work. I definitely think he's correct on who the Antichrist is. And yes, it doesn't fit the ongoing Christian narrative. It doesn't fit what people believe about the Antichrist. But what they believe about the Antichrist and what the Bible says about the Antichrist or the beast is not the same thing. In general, most people have a false belief on what they're expecting. And when that doesn't happen exactly the way they see it happening, then they think, oh, well, it's not this guy. Or they think they're going to be zapped out of here before anything bad happens. You know, that's the looking toward the pre-trib rapture idea. So that's the vast majority of evangelical believers think that. So, anyways, that's it for me tonight. I guess we have the final version of this show will be up on Tuesday, but this is really part 2 of my weekend. This weekend we had a longer a shorter overall show, but a little bit longer presentation as far as between the 2 shows this weekend. So you got almost twice as much Diamond Report this week. So hope you enjoyed it. And it was very exhausting, I will say that. So thank you guys for hanging in there with me. And please support what I'm doing if you don't mind. I don't get paid anything other than whatever you guys pay me. So that's it. So I did have, I noticed somebody purchased I think it was a stainless steel water bottle earlier today. But that's the first sale of anything from the store in some time. So make sure you join the Substack and make sure you either contribute there or through the Substack. Through the Substack, you can contribute there, or you can also purchase something from the store. Anything to support the show is certainly very, very helpful. So we've got the Conspiracy Analyst hoodies and hats. We've got the Diamond Report logo on the shirts and mugs and things like that as well. So, and then end times dates too. So thank you guys for your support, and I definitely appreciate that. And make sure you follow along on Twitter as well. I've got some interesting things here. And we're talking about the UK tonight a lot, again, as the last show or two. And then I found this on Twitter. This is literally, I'll just mute it, but this is literally a guy who's standing there, a street preacher, standing there preaching, and they come and arrest him. Meanwhile, they have an Islamic prayer all over town that's being bellowed out all over London, and that's okay. It says when British Christian preachers are arrested in the street, but Islamic prayer is allowed to bellow out over London, there may just be a 2-tier policing system, an attack on Christianity itself. Do you see it yet? So they're arresting this guy for simply preaching the word on the street. And there's the Muslims doing their prayer front and center. How's that any different? Well, obviously, they don't want the actual truth to come out, meaning what this guy was saying. Look, he's starting to hit him. So anyway, that is one of the more recent tweets at the moment. And then got some other good stuff here on Twitter. So the Diamond Report on Twitter, the Diamond RPRT. And then if you're not already following on YouTube, please do that. And Take It to the Lord in Prayer End Times Dates is the channel name. And on all the other platforms, though, pretty much it's Diamond Disc, DIAMONDISC. The spelling is right there. And if you're not subscribed on the other platforms and you have a presence there, please subscribe if you don't mind. That would be on BitChute and Rumble and Brighteon. That's the other ones. And the show that I did as the bonus show this weekend for my good friend Bart, he asked me to fill in for him on a podcast. So that was what this show is right here. Biohybrid Magnetic Robots. And that is available on Brighteon and on BitChute and on Rumble. And that's the only place this show will be available, this particular one. biohybrid magnetic robots will only be on those 3 platforms. So anyway, feel free to check that out. There was a lot of news I didn't talk about tonight because I talked about it on Friday night. So I knew that folks who are tuned in tonight probably already saw the Friday night show. A lot of you guys did. So definitely watch that one. I think you'll find that has some really good info in it as well. So, and then join the band group. We had a few more people add into the fold. Band.us/@ the Diamond Report is where it is. Band.us/ and then the @ symbol, the Diamond Report. And Miss Emily put the link in chat. So thank you to her, and thank you everybody who was here tonight. I definitely appreciate it. Yeah, and then she also put the link to, there's the link for the Diamond Report Live from Friday night. Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate that, Emily. And thank you guys for being here tonight. Always appreciate your guys' time and for being here with me. We've been going almost 3 hours tonight. So yeah, it's another long show. We've got tons of news to talk about this weekend. So we got it all squeezed in. So 12:45 a.m. on 8/19. I guess the next show will be, what? That would be the 25th. Yeah, August 25th at 10 p.m. Central. So I don't imagine there will be an extra show between now and then this weekend, but definitely come back into the mix with the Diamond Report Live on 10 p.m. Central Time on the 25th. So we will see you guys then. The only reason I would do a separate secondary type of broadcast is if there's some sort of weird, unfolding of some sort of World War III type scenario or something like that, where we get on and talk about that. But so far so good. That hasn't happened, but I do look for that to happen very soon, unfortunately. So I appreciate you guys. Blessings to you all, and make sure you're right with God, because again, we don't know how much time we have, and I'm thinking that it's probably not all that long, and we will soon be standing in front of Jesus, and we have to be in the right place here with that. And hope you guys are. I know it's a lot of work trying to measure up, but the nice thing is you don't have to measure up because he gave his life for you. So Emily says, have a wonderful and safe and sane week, everyone. Much love and God bless to you all. Thank you. Yes, that kind of sums it up. So thank you guys. Love you all, and we'll talk again very soon.